I've been sitting here for like 20 minutes, just staring at nothing, rehearsing words in my head and then throwing them out, because nothing feels right. Nothing feels big enough or small enough for what I'm trying to say. But I'm just going to say it, because I think I need to, for myself more than anything. My name is Zara, and about a year ago, I did something kind, something genuinely, honestly kind, and it broke me open in a way I did not see coming. Okay, let me back up. I used to take the same route to work every single morning, down Clement Street, left on 4th, across the big intersection at Morrison, the loud one, with the coffee cart on the corner and the pigeons that act like they own the sidewalk. It was just routine. Head down, coffee in hand, already thinking about emails before I even got through the door. I was like that back then, always halfway somewhere else, always in my head. And then, one Tuesday in October, I almost walked into a man standing at the edge of the curb. He was white, older, maybe late 60s, brown jacket that was a little too big for him, like it used to fit someone broader, white cane held out just slightly, and he was just standing there, still, while the whole city moved around him like water around a rock. I stopped. I don't fully know why. I just stopped. I said, "Hey, do you need a hand crossing?" Real casual, trying not to make it weird. And he turned toward my voice and smiled and said, "I'd appreciate that, thank you." I took his arm, we crossed, he said, "God bless you, dear," and we went our separate ways. That was it. But I thought about him the whole day, just kept coming back to the image of him standing there at that curb, and everyone walking past, and I remember thinking, how long was he waiting? So, the next morning, I got there early, on purpose, which honestly should have told me something about myself right there, because I am not an early person, for anything. But I got there, and he was there, same corner, same jacket, and we crossed again. And that became the thing, our thing, every single weekday morning for almost 3 months. His name was Elliot, he told me after about 2 weeks, like it was the least interesting fact in the room. I liked that. He was funny, like genuinely sharp funny, dry humor, the kind where you laugh and then think, wait, was that a joke? Yes, it was absolutely a joke. He'd ask me things on those walks, not small talk things, real things. One morning he said, "What do you actually want your life to look like? Not what makes sense. What do you want?" And I stumbled, literally stumbled on the curb because nobody had ever asked me that. Not like that, not point blank on a Tuesday morning. I told him I didn't know, and he nodded slowly and said, "That's okay. Most people don't. But you should find out before it's too late." And I thought, "Sir, I just met you 5 weeks ago. Who gave you permission to be this real with me?" But that was Elliot. He never softened things with politeness. He just said the true thing. And the thing is, he never complained. Not once. Not about his eyesight, not about the cold, not about anything. He talked about his life like it was full, like it was enough, and mine started to feel very thin by comparison, in the best possible way, like he was holding up a light and going, "Look, there's more room in here than you think." I started looking forward to those mornings more than anything else in my day, more than the weekends, more than Friday nights with my girls. Just 20 minutes on a sidewalk with this older white man in a too big jacket. It made no sense, and it made complete sense. The first crack came on a rainy Thursday. We were almost at the other side of the intersection, and a pigeon took off from the awning above us, loud, sudden, and Elliot flinched back just slightly. Not from the sound. He turned his head and said, "Pigeons always do that right before the light changes." And I thought, wait, you can't see the pigeon. You can't see the awning. How do you know it was a pigeon?" I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being too much into it. He knows this corner better than anyone. Of course he knows the pigeons. But then the week after that, there was construction. A whole new detour I hadn't even noticed until I almost walked into the barrier. And Elliot had already adjusted. Slightly, like he'd seen it. And then, and this is the one I can't explain, a kid on a bicycle came out of nowhere, fast, flying out of a side alley, and Elliot stepped back a full second before I screamed. A full second before my brain even registered danger. His body had already moved away from it. I stood there on that sidewalk with my heart going absolutely crazy, and I looked at him, and he was calm. So calm. He just said, "You okay?" I said, "How did you know?" He said, "You get a sense of things." I went home that night and I could not sleep. I lay in the dark just replaying every single morning, looking for more cracks, telling myself I was being paranoid, telling myself he was just remarkably intuitive, remarkably alert. Some people are like that. But I've always trusted my gut. And my gut was very loudly saying, "Wait." I'm not proud of what I did next. I want to say that up front. I followed him. One morning, after we crossed, instead of heading to work, I waited around the corner and watched where he went. I felt awful. I felt like the worst version of myself. But I had to know. He walked 4 blocks, confidently, almost briskly, cane out, navigating perfectly, and he turned into this building, a community center, disability programs listed in the window. Okay, I thought, this makes sense. I felt a little ashamed of myself. But I stayed. 20 minutes later, Elliot came out of that building, and his cane was folded, tucked under his arm, and he was looking at his phone. Not holding it close, not using any accessibility features I could see, just looking at it, the way you or I look at a phone. I stood half a block away, and my whole body went cold. I went home. I sat on my bathroom floor, and I just breathed for a while. Then I opened my laptop. I typed his name, Elliot Webb, and then I added the city, and then disability, and then research, just throwing words at the wall. And there it was. Dr. Elliot Webb, behavioral psychologist, professor, retired, 30 years studying urban social behavior, empathy, altruism, bystander dynamics. He had published 9 papers, and one of his most documented methodologies, field simulation, using himself, posing as a visually impaired person in high-traffic urban intersections, for years, documenting who helps, who doesn't, who keeps coming back, and why. I read that sentence 3 times. I was a data point. All those mornings, all those conversations about what I wanted from my life, all that realness, all that warmth, I was a subject in someone's study. I sat with that for 2 days. 2 full days. I didn't sleep right, didn't eat right, just kept turning it over and over, feeling stupid and angry and sad, and then stupid again for feeling sad. On the 3rd morning, I put on my jacket, took it off, put it back on, made coffee I didn't drink, and then I went. He was there. Of course he was there. Cane out, brown jacket, same corner. And I walked up, and I stood next to him, but I didn't offer my arm. He noticed immediately. He has always been so attuned to the smallest things. Now I understood why. He said, "You're quiet today." I said, "I know about the study, Elliot." He went very still, the kind of still that confirmed everything before he said a single word. The light changed. We didn't move. The light changed again. We still didn't move. He said, "How long have you known?" I said, 2 days. He said, "I see." And I said, and I surprised myself, I really did, I said, "Were any of the things you said to me real? The conversations? All of it? Was that real?" He was quiet for a long time, long enough that I thought he wasn't going to answer. And then he said, "The study ended after the 3rd week, Zara. After that, I just wanted to keep walking with you." I didn't know what to do with that. I still don't, fully. We stood on that corner in the cold, and the city just kept going all around us, loud and completely indifferent. And I thought about all the mornings, and what they meant, and what they didn't mean. And I didn't cry. I just felt this enormous, heavy, complicated thing sitting in the center of my chest. I said, "I have to go to work." And I crossed the street alone. I didn't go back for 3 weeks. Every morning I took a different route, and every morning I thought about him anyway. I'd be on the bus or waiting for coffee, and my brain would just go back to that corner, back to the too big jacket and the dry jokes and the question about what I actually wanted from my life. And here's the thing that I kept bumping into, the thing that actually hurt. It wasn't really about him lying. It was about me finding out that I needed to be seen being good. Because I had to ask myself, honestly, sitting alone in my apartment at 2 a.m, was I helping Elliot every morning because it was the right thing to do? Or was I going back because I liked who I became when I was standing next to him? I liked being the girl who showed up, the one who stopped when everyone else kept walking. That felt good. That felt like an identity I wanted. And finding out there was a camera pointed at that feeling, even a metaphorical one, it cracked something. I talked to my sister about it. She's older than me, she doesn't do drama, she just looks at you and says the thing. She listened to the whole story, and then she said, "Zara, most people who do good things do them partly because it makes them feel good. That's not shameful. That's just being human." I sat with that. And then I thought, the street still got crossed, every single morning. Whether I understood my own reasons or not, he got across that street. And somewhere in those weeks after the study ended, something between us was real. He stayed. He didn't have to. He chose to keep coming back. That matters. A few weeks later, I found one more thing. A short piece Elliot had published, just a few pages, not academic, more personal, about compassion that outlasts its original reason, about how the most interesting thing he kept observing across all those years of research was not who helped, it was who kept helping after the novelty wore off, who stayed even when it was inconvenient, who showed up in the rain. I don't know if I'm in that paper. I genuinely don't know, and I've decided I don't want to look. But I thought about it. I thought about it a lot. I went back one last time. Not to fix anything, not to have a big emotional moment, just to close it in a way that felt like mine. He was there, brown jacket, cane out. It was drizzling a little. The sidewalk was slippery. I walked up, and I offered my arm. No words first, just my arm. And he took it, and we crossed. On the other side, he said, "Good morning, Zara." I said, "Good morning, Elliot." And we went our separate ways. I think about all of it still. I probably always will. I think about whether kindness that comes from wanting to feel good about yourself counts as real kindness, and I've landed on yes. Yeah, it does. Because the reason lives inside you, but the action lives in the world. And the world is where other people have to stand. Elliot spent decades watching people decide in a single second whether to stop or keep walking, and he kept showing up to watch because he believed it mattered. That small choice, that single second at a curb. I believe it too. I stopped, and then I kept stopping, and somewhere in the mess of all my complicated reasons, that part was true. That's enough for me.